What's up, YouTube? Tim Moose here. Now, here is my throwback segment where I talk about the film, pretty much my first throwback segment of the new year, where I, of course, talk about the film celebrating their 10th, 20th, and 30th. Not a lot to really go by this week, though, because the first week of January is usually always dead sometimes, so not really anything too major. But the one film that does celebrate its 10th anniversary, we got Paranormal Activity, the Mark Ones. Now, this was, of course, the latest installment of the Paranormal Activity franchise. Uh, I believe this was like, I think this is like the fifth or something. There's so many Paranormal Activity films out there, I cannot remember them all. Uh, Now, this is, of course, about a young man who becomes a target of a malevolent entity. He must uncover its true intentions before it takes complete control of him. Now, I actually quite enjoyed this one. It definitely, of course, took place around the same time as the original Paranormal Activity. This was, of course, directed by. This was also directed by Christopher Landon, who, of course, will go on to direct other stuff like Freaky. He also gave us Happy Death Day. He was supposed to give us Scream 7, but that didn't wind up happening now. And it was also really cool to see a horror film with an all Hispanic cast. I thought that was really cool too. This definitely is one of the better of the Paranormal Activity sequels, in my opinion. It's as scary as the other one. So, not a bad follow up here. Now, turning 20, who remembers the Leprechaun films? Of course, turning 20 this week, we got Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Now, Leprechaun, of course, went through a lot of phases. Leprechaun dealt with Jennifer Aniston, went to space, went to the hood, and then went back to the hood again. Now, of course, the last one was like 98 or something like that. That was, of course, done with Ice Cube facing off against, not Ice Cube, Leprechaun facing off against Ice T, Leprechaun rapping in that one. Yeah, that was an odd one. I actually did not mind Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Like, is it a good film? Definitely not, but it's more of a guilty pleasure. And this also, I also like this one too because especially it was actually the last time we got to see Warwick Davis play the role of the Leprechaun in R. So I thought I'd love to see him come back to play the Leprechaun again in the near future. Because all due respect to Willow, whenever I think of Warwick Davis, I always go back to the Leprechaun franchise. I mean, this is definitely Warwick's best, in my opinion. All due respect to Willow and his Harry Potter roles and stuff like that. Um, of course, there is talks about another like Leprechaun being in the works. I would love for Warwick to come back, but I don't even think he has any interest in coming back. But anything possible could happen. Now, if you guys don't know much about the story of Leprechaun Back to the Hood, by the way, uh, it was, of course, an American black comedy slasher film, which was, of course, a standalone sequel to Leprechaun in the Hood, with no returning characters or reference made to that film. It was the sixth installment of the Leprechaun franchise, and was the last entry to star Warwick Davis. The film has on the Leprechaun rampaging through an urban area and killing anyone in his path while looking for his goat, which was stolen by a group of youths who are using to fulfill their wildest dreams. And yeah, this had a lot of fun stuff to it. I mean, some really cool kills too here. Of course, you had if you ever want to see Warwick Davis's Leprechaun getting high, like smoking a bong, this is one for you here. Yeah, again, it's a good film, definitely not, but it's more of a guilty pleasure of mine. I've always had a fun time with this one. Like I just rewatched it on Tubi a couple months back. It is a really fun one, and of course, every St. Patty's Day, I always try to get a Leprechaun marathon once a while. The Leprechauns are they're not great films. Like the first one is great, but yeah, the sequels aren't all that great, but they are fun to watch, especially around St. Patty's Day. So yeah, anyway. Now, also turning 30, we got the film that I totally don't really remember ever watching. That's the film Desert Winds, which is about a young woman played by Heather Graham in New Mexico communicates with a young man in Arizona through the wind tunnels. Yeah, I've seen lots of Heather Graham films. I do not really recall this one at all. And not a lot of films, great films that turned 30 this past week. So yeah, I mean, obviously, let's refer January. Usually, always been known as the dumping ground for films. I mean, yes, there has been decent stuff, but not really anything to go by. But that is pretty much it there. Let me ask you guys, which of these films stand out to you the most? I don't really record Desert Winds, so I can't really comment on that on the third one. But I really quite enjoyed Mark Ones, and I of course enjoyed Leprechaun 2. Like, were you ever a fan of the Mark Ones? Were you ever a fan of Leprechaun 2? Have you ever seen Desert Winds? Drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Henry signing out.